Afternoon. Sorry, it's been a while. I've been incredibly busy. Started a new job, a new car. Went on holiday. Came back from holiday. So I thought I'd do a quick unscripted session on something that I've been thinking about for a wee while. Might as well do it with a max. Cheers, guys. Concept I want to talk about is survival knives. Now, I've got a couple of examples here. First one I'll talk about is this here, which is the William Collins survival knife. He's a Texan American knife maker. I could do a whole session about him. He's an interesting character, but I'm just going to concentrate on his knife. This is a big package. What it is a knife I might have shown before. This is a custom version. He's a custom knife maker, and this is a custom version of a knife model that he puts out. Basically, I had the handle changed to suit me a little bit, just really the material and the pins and a few other bits and bobs. But essentially, this is the knife that comes as standard, which he calls the WC-SK. Remember, his name is William Collins. SK is sort of survival knife, but there's more to it than that, so I'll explain. W is maybe for Williams, but it's also for Woods. And this knife is designed to be able to be used as a wood processing, either for bending and splitting apart or carving. It's got a recurve that's a Scandi edge in there. It's got a sort of a Tanto tip there. The whole shape is kukri-esque. You can sort of see it once I mention it. You might not be able to see it beforehand. But you can carve with this, you can notch with this, you can do sort of drills with it, you can do a lot with it because it's a really good, useful shape. It's thick. There's a lot of steel in this, and this particular one is 01 tool steel, which many of you know that I quite like. This particular model is model 33, and it's C for custom, so 033 WC-SK and 01 tool steel. Interesting thing about this is that the WC-SK stands for various things. Like I said, first, wood processing. SC, William Collins, that bit is essentially combat. You can use this as a combat knife. It's thick steel, 5.5 inches, sort of a skull crushing bit on the end. It's got a really good grip. You could have your hand covered in mud and guts and blood and everything, and it's not coming out of that. Your hand locks into it. It's really good, really comfortable. 5.5 inches is going to do a lot of damage if you needed to use it in combat. I haven't, probably won't ever, but hey, there you go. Now the S is survival. So this is designed to do anything that you might need to do in a survival knife. Now I've seen demonstrations of this chopped through a car door. Someone who wanted to get into a car without smashing the window. There he was, they're stuck out somewhere and they needed shelter. Hey, there's a car. If I smash the window, obviously the cold will get in and the rain and whatever. So they cut open the car door and opened it with this. I've seen people, Williams in fact, hammer it into a tree stump and stand up on it. You can split wood, chop stuff, get into anything. You'd probably pry a door with it. 01 means that it won't chip at all, theoretically. It may bend a little bit, but you should be able to get it back into shape. Mostly, if you really abuse the heck out of it. And then finally it's got the K, that is for kitchen. So this is, the idea behind this is that you can also use it as an everyday camp knife. You can spread butter with it, you can chop your food with it, you can, if you had to, you could probably open a can with it, a can of beans. Certainly it's got a lot of stuff going for it. It's a strange shape. It's also, strangely enough, a really good skinning knife because that back, you can put it on the animal and that will just open it up really nicely. Skins quite well. It's got a big blade, so you can use it for pulling and smacking, and it's got enough oomph to cut through tendons and ligaments and cut open a a knee joint if you had to. Might not do the blade much favours, but you know, it's tough, good knife. And this thing with survival knives that I get annoyed with. If you're in a survival situation, you don't know when it's going to occur. And so there's no point having a really good knife which you keep in the drawer for the survival situation, because you're not going to have it with you when you actually need it. That's the idea with this knife, is that you can use it as an everyday, all day sort of knife, camping knife, trail knife, hunting knife, and you've got it when you need it. Comes with, like I said, one heck of a sheath. This isn't Williams sheath, it's a sheath made for someone that goes with them. So it's got humongous fire steel. You know, this thing is big, beefy, locked into place. You know, makes sparks. So these are sort of fire generating aspect, because you know, during a survival situation, you're gonna need a fire, you're gonna need a shelter. This will do that. This will do that. A sharpener, if you are chopping through car doors, then you're gonna munt up your blade. This I would never recommend you actually use unless you're a long way from home, you're in a bad situation, you need to put an edge on a knife. It's diamonds, it will rip away metal, it will sharpen things, it'll work, but I wouldn't recommend it normally. But if you're in a survival situation, you can. This thing has also got another use, and that, because you've got a nice little tube there, you can use that for getting your fire going if you know, you're having trouble. A little straw, maybe you can even suck water out of it, I don't know. I think it's brass, don't know if I'd like to suck water out of it. It's got a little torch just on the end here. Torch is very useful, and then has a little pouch, and in the pouch there is tinder, a lighter, a compass, you know, bits and pieces, some needles, thread, all the sorts of things that you might need in a survival situation. The thing with this is that you can quite easily unclip all the bits and bobs and cut it just down to just a sheath carrying a knife. A lot more comfortable, a lot lighter, a lot easier to carry. Then you don't have the bits and bobs you might need. So, you know, it's always a trade-off. But this is a good knife, solid knife. It's not too big and heavy. You should see some of the knives. So, yeah, this is a good option. It's got that theoretically skull crashing bit there, but it's actually designed not for smashing into skulls, although it will probably do that, but for scraping to preserve the edge. It's got a 90-degree spine, crookery-esque shape, recurve here, Scandi grind, full flat grind over here, Tanto tip. Really interesting knife, really good knife, really comfortable knife. Good work. Mors Trahenski, who survival expert, kind of said your survival knife basically should be a sharpened crowbar. And you know, look at the steel on that. That comes pretty close, but way more useful than a crowbar for a lot of things. Custom made knife, but you can order them. Next knife we come to, a little bit different. This is Randall Made Knives, a model 18 5.5. Combat survival or survival combat. This knife is designed to get you out of nasty situations. It was actually designed by both Randall and a helicopter medevac guy. So he wasn't the pilot, he was just the guy who was pulling people onto the helicopter in the Vietnam War before they took them off to safety, and was kind of patching them up a little bit. His nightmare was that the chopper would go down and he'd have to get out of the nightmare, the chopper, and then survive until he could get picked up. So what he did is he took a Randall model 15, and the 15 and the 14 were hardcore knives designed, we'll go into those at some point, designed by Randall, designed actually by a couple of army guys, well, designed by Randall at a couple of army guys' request. 15 came before the 14, despite the numbering. And what he does, he said, hey, could you chop some notches in the back to act as a saw, not for cutting wood or flesh or anything, but for chopping his way out of a plexiglass chopper if it went down. He wanted a big guard, because if you're smacking your hand, holding a knife, smacking it into a helicopter fuselage to try and chop it out, could easily slip off. They drilled a couple of holes in it, so you can actually lash that to a pole, not to throw at someone, but maybe to cut something higher up. I wouldn't want to throw my knife at anyone. Maybe use to stab a pig, I don't know. But anyway, he designed this. The other thing he wanted was a hollow handle. He wanted a hollow handle so that he could stuff some pills and medicine and basic survival sort of stuff into there, which is what this tube essentially is. It's got a whole pile of needles and thread and bits and pieces, matches and all sorts of bits and pieces. There's some more tinder and stuff in the back of the cap, and a little button compass which will give you a very basic reading. Look, there's north, there's south. You know, you're not going to read a map with it. We're not going to be able to anyway, but it works. Now, the sheath on this, again, very nice sheath. Randall don't actually make their sheaths in-house. They get someone to make them. And to that, I've added this, which is a teeny incy-wincy little sparker. And around that, I have put some needles in there and some thread and some tape. So that will give you a spark. And this is the Leatherman Micro. Great little tool. Blade is very, very much so, very small. You're not going to do much, but popping blisters and things, hey, it's great. It's got a 10mm screwdriver, bottle opener, a little wee screwdriver on the other, tweezers, and a little wee blade there, a couple more little tools here. This is actually, and the scissors is actually very useful. This is a really good little medical kit, essentially, and very basic tool, but it fits in there beautifully. What's designed to go in there is a little sharpening stone, which I don't put in there. Instead, I put these things in there, and I'm very comfortable with it, very happy with it. The sheath itself, leather, is designed to hold the knife in place. It's got holes in here, bang, bang, bang. That's designed to make it jump proof. So if you put it in, lock it into place, put that round there, pull that, generally speaking you'd attach the other one, but I don't because it's a pain in the butt to get out. Clip that into place, and there you have a knife which is approved for jumping out of an aeroplane, because it won't come loose and kill your comrades on the way down. And you put the other one through at the top as well, you know. Hey. So this one, like I said, made during the World War. This particular one is modern, but the design was made in the Vietnam War, designed as a survival knife. It's forged, not ground like that one, so they take a bit of metal and smack it into shape with a hammer and then finish it. It's hollow ground, sharp as anything, and despite the fact that this is a blade ends here and it's epoxied in and silver soldered in, I have battened with this thing and it's not going anywhere. I've heard of one breaking, and that actually broke at the blade, not came loose from this. So I've heard of one that did come loose from this, and the person had put it in a vise and cranked it up. So stainless tube. Underneath this I have put in, it's knurled, then I have wrapped it with a whole pile of fishing line, and then some tape, and then paracord, so you can take that off and use it. it's great, but here's the thing with it. It's not actually useful for much else other than survival and or combat, which is what it's kind of designed to do. The handle, despite just being, cord wrapped, is pretty comfortable. The weight, it's got a substantial weight. The problem is that those saw teeth at the back are so vicious. They're so flicking sharp that you've got to be really careful what you're doing with it. I mean, you should be careful with a knife anyway. You probably shouldn't drink beer and play with knives, but right, don't, whatever. The fact is, the saw teeth are a bit of a liability. Yeah, you can use that for skinning. It's got a spear tip, sharp. Like I said, survival situation, you use anything and this will get you there. You can batten with that, but if you use a normal batten on it, it gets chewed up like in minutes. So, good knife, great knife, love it in my collection. Doesn't get used a great deal, which is a shame, but there you are. I've got it, I wouldn't get rid of it. Which one would I use in a survival situation? Here's the thing. If I was getting selected to go to war, called up, I would take this. Everyday urban survival, or a knife that is more likely to be used, it's going to be that one, because I wouldn't take this one camping or hunting. I have in the past, didn't actually use it. This one I have and would and do, so this one would probably be the one that gets used more often and would be more likely to be on myself in a survival situation. Although, so saying that, I'm making a few knives recently, that my own knives that I'd probably use. Anyway, that's my take on survival knives. So I think the problem with a lot of survival knives is that they're like this. If you get a really good one, which is specialized, you're probably not going to use it when you need it, or have it on you when you need it. Something like this, which is more generic, you've got a better chance of having it with you because it can do everyday tasks quite well. It's a jack of all trades, but not a master of none, of one. So, it's not a perfect skinning knife, it's not a perfect whittling knife, it's not a perfect anything knife, but it's very good at a lot of things. So you're probably more like to have that. But like I said, if I was getting called up, this is the knife I would have. Anyway, this is my thoughts on survival knives. I don't think they're great. I think what you're better off doing is having a really good knife that's not exactly a survival knife, but it's got some toughness to it, so that if you are in a situation where you have to beat on it, it's not going to snap. Alright, so a good handmade or off the shelf, if that ticks your box, a knife that is comfortable to use, is light enough to use that you'll have it on you when you need it, like a really good hunting knife that you're really comfortable with, but not so specialized that you can't use it for chopping wood. A general good all-purpose knife. It's kind of where this is going towards, but it's got to be a knife that can handle the jandle if shit hits the fan. If you've got to put it through its paces, you don't want it to break. It might be, ruined by the end of it, but as long as you get back in one piece, you can always replace the knife. But, if it snaps the first time you go to try and cut a piece of wood or build a basic survival shelter or dig out a few things from the ground you find that you think might be useful, or trying to chop open a car door, it's no good. So a knife that is capable of doing a couple of things well, probably better than a super specialist 1 degree knife. So this one, it's great, but maybe not as generically useful as this one. and maybe even more useful than this one would be a good hunting knife, which is strong enough to handle a little bit of battening. Or, you know, a hunting knife and a decent multi-tool / pocket knife. Something that you can use, or, you know, an axe and a chainsaw. Hey, anyway, survival knives. These are my two. This one gets a bit of use. This one mainly just lives in the sock drawer. Anyway, that's my thoughts on survival knives. I'll make them if someone wants one, but I kind of don't think they're that useful, depending what, maybe, you know, if you're a photographer going into the Amazon, hey, super multi-purpose knife might be useful. If you're someone who stays at home and doesn't do much or goes on the occasional camping trip, get a good hunting knife, and just make sure beforehand that you can batten with it, and then you'll be good. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe you need one of these. You definitely need one of these. This is wonderful. Cheers, guys.